Welcome to the Midwest Education Technology Communities Podcast, otherwise known as METC. METC is a nonprofit organization based out of St. Louis, Missouri, with a mission to motivate, engage, transform, and connect all learners to advocacy, partnerships, and professional learning opportunities. METC is a premier affiliate of ISTE. To learn more about METC, follow us on social media at METC Ed Plus. You may also check out our website at metcedplus.org. METC is a program of Education Plus. To learn more about Education Plus, go to edplus.org. It is now time to begin our current episode. We thank you for listening and enjoy the learning. You have tuned in to another special episode of the METC podcast. We are here ready for CS Week 2018. This is our fourth installment of our special episodes for this week. We hope that these episodes will get you thinking about ways to integrate coding into the curriculum, not just this week during CS Week, but throughout the year as well, because it can be done, and these resources will allow you to do so. Today, I'm going to interview myself. I will be the guest and the host in this episode. I love coding. I wish I had it more growing up. I wish I had more time to learn about it now, not only because I might make a little bit more money, but also it's just a lot of fun. I mean, I like creating things and building things from scratch, and coding allows you to do that from a tech standpoint. And so I like the topic a lot. I also like making sure that everybody gets a chance to learn about coding. That it's not just a class super smart kids get, or it's not just something that we do when testing is over. It is something that everybody gets an opportunity to participate in. It's something that everybody gets to do as often as we can, because it is a pretty cool idea. It's engaging. It allows you to create things and put ownership into things. And so I love it. And so the resource I'm going to share today is called Made with Code, and it's by Google. I chose that one because I'm a Google-licious dude. And, everything in my house is Google, so I figured this would be a good one to share out on. It is focused on getting girls involved, interested in coding, and it's a pretty cool resource. It's got a lot of different aspects to it that I want to share out in this particular episode. So I spend some time talking about my general idea of coding first, and then we get into the resource of Made with Code. So hopefully you'll enjoy this episode. It's not the high-powered guest you may be thinking of, but hopefully I give you some resources to think about for Hour of Code and beyond as well. So enjoy the episode. I will talk to you again soon. Hello there, everyone, and welcome to another special episode of the METC podcast for CS Week 2018. My name is Jonathon Lee. I am your guest and host for this episode. I want to thank you for listening to us. I greatly appreciate that. So let's get right into it. Jonathon Lee, who are you? And tell us a little bit about yourself. All right, well, thank you for having me on this episode. I am an instructional specialist for METC, the Midwest Education Technology Community. I've been there for about 3 years. I work with my director, Stephanie Madlinger, and we provide training resources for our region, for districts that belong to Education Plus. And I also work for the state of Missouri with the Regional Professional Development Center, and I'm on a statewide tech team for that. So I provide resources and coaching ability for different schools around the state of Missouri related to the Missouri Model School District Initiative that we have going on. So I do a lot of work. Get to go around the state. It's pretty cool. I'm also a ISTE certified educator, which is pretty cool to say that. And I'm one of the few trainers in the world. So there's a handful of us now. I was one of the first 15 to be a certified trainer for ISTE certification, but they've added on a few more since then, so there's a few more of us out there. But it is still pretty cool to be part of that elite group and to be able to provide a training for a pretty awesome certification process. So if you're not familiar with it, you should definitely check that out. But anyway, before I came to METC and the RPC, I was a classroom teacher. I taught 5th grade for, I think total of 6 years. 4th grade for a couple years, and I was an admin intern for a year. And coding was a big piece of my classroom, probably not nearly as big as I would like it to be. I did more than just the hour of code. I did integrate it with other activities, but nothing to the extent that I think that I would now, knowing what I know and the number of resources that are available there. So I'm going to go through and go ahead and answer the questions that I've asked the other guests that I've had for this week, just so I can be consistent. But I've always asked the others why it's important to introduce students to coding. And I do share some of my opinions in those interviews, and I will share my full opinion here now. But I think it's important to introduce kids to coding, not just because I think that every single job in the future is going to require coding. That's not it at all, and I would think most, if not all, of the guests that I've had and could have on my show would agree with that. It's not about having every job be coding. It's not that every kid needs to know to code. However, we do believe, and I believe, that coding is going to be a huge part of our life. It already is a big part of our life, whether we know it or not. And it's only going to get bigger. And it's going to be helpful for students to understand what that is, what that means, what is causing this machine to record my voice and respond to the questions I ask it, like the Google Assistant. It's going to be important for them to be able to speak to it, talk to it, maybe even create stuff with it. And so not only that, it's not to say that everybody's going to be working with coding, but who knows if they would want to or not. And so it may be a career path that they may want to travel down, and introducing them to it as a topic or an option is, I think, a wonderful idea. And so not only that it's since it's so new. And no, it's not new in this aspect of it just came out, but it's being integrated more and more. It's still a new feeling to students. They're very engaged with that. And so it's something that can be easily integrated within your curriculum, and you can engage kids with that curriculum like never before. And so it's pretty cool. So with my experience on how students respond, like I said, they are completely engaged. They enjoy it. And at first there are some students like, oh, I don't want to do coding. I'm not a coder, but they don't really understand what that means, or they have a misconception of what that means. And so once you get them into the actual activity, they almost always, I would say like 99% of the time, change their mind, and they do a quick turnaround. I've also had teachers say, oh, no, my kids are too young for coding. I teach kindergarten, they can't code. Well, believe it or not, they can. They're pretty tech savvy. I'm not sure if you've come across a kindergartner lately, but they're pretty tech savvy. My 10-month-old cannot really manipulate my watch, which is a smart watch, but when I passed him off to a friend of mine this weekend, he definitely went for her watch and was trying to push his finger across the screen, but it wouldn't do anything because it wasn't a smartwatch. So he definitely was expecting it to be something that would react to his touch. So he's already starting to understand that he can manipulate things with his fingers because of the tools we have out there. So that's pretty amazing considering how young he is, and but that's just what kids are used to and what they're growing up with. And he's only 10 months. Who knows what's going to happen when he actually get to 10 years. It's going to be amazing out there. So, but they respond quite awesome. So I do like to share a story that we had 5th grade and kindergarten buddies. I was a 5th grade teacher, and we met once a month to do activities, and I wanted to do coding for CS Week and Hour of Code. And both kindergarten teachers were like, no, they're not going to get it. They won't be engaged. They'll get lost, and it's not going to go well. I was like, yes, it will. Let's just do it. And that 30-minute activity ended up being a full hour activity, and the kindergartners did not want to leave. By the end of it, they were doing it pretty much by themselves. They didn't really need my 5th grade buddies to help them, and they were engaged. I think most of them were doing either the Angry Birds or Elsa with Code.org, And it was an amazing response to that. And so imagine what you could do to take that to the next level. Because the next question I ask is, how do you integrate it within the curriculum? And yes, the Angry Birds activity and the Elsa activity are not necessarily big on curriculum focus, but it doesn't mean you can't add a curriculum focus. I mean, you think about telling the Angry Bird to go up 2 and down to the right 2, or that kind of thing. So you're dealing with coordinates. You're dealing with directions, left, right, up and down, north, south, east, west. Big ideas for kindergarten, first grade, second grade. So it does have some skills in there, but you're also dealing with some soft skills that some students just really struggle with, right? One, trying things over and over again. When you fail, get back up and try again. Students tend to struggle with that, and I've got a 3-year-old that really struggles with that, who can't get her jacket off and starts to whine and throw a fit, when really she just needs to slow down and think things through and realize, oh, it's not completely unzipped, no big deal. So, it gets the students a chance to take a look at the problem and try to solve it, and if you fail, try to debug it, fix it, and try again. So it's a pretty cool way to get them engaged in thinking about those kind of things. Nowadays, you can integrate it into the curriculum so many times. The episode you heard yesterday, hopefully, with Garrett Gross, if you have not listened to it, you may want to go back to it and check it out, because the stuff that he's doing with Spheros is just amazing. I can only imagine what I would do within my classroom. We had a unit that we used film canisters and Alka-Seltzer, talking about force and motion, stuff like that. But I could easily see us integrating Sphero into that realm. I had students create websites as part of like a math activity. So the students that showed on the pre-assessment they were proficient in many of the skills within a unit or a lesson, then they didn't have to be bored with hearing me talk about that particular skill, because they already knew it. And so I gave them tasks like coding or building a website. Building the website, they weren't actually coding because they were just following what the website planner was letting them do. But the resource I'm going to talk about today, Made with Code, gives a link to you that you can get to the Mozilla, who has a resource that allows you to code a new website from HTML. And it goes step by step on how to do that. It allows you to see things happen as you do it. And what a cool idea to start really creating your own websites from scratch. And so it's really taking that idea of learning the math concepts, but also putting those math concepts into a site that they built themselves to share with others, not just their own classmates, but other students across the district, across the St. Louis area, across the world, that kind of thing. So it's pretty cool to think like that. So there's many different ways to integrate it, so I won't go into too many of those. So let's get to the topic or the resource at hand here, Made with Code. So what is Made with Code? Made with Code is a website with resources created by Google and has a focus on to increase the interest level of coding with girls. And so if you click on the link, it's in the show notes at metcedplus.org, or it's in the Podbean show notes as well. Or you can just research or Google Made with Code and you'll come up with madewithcode.com. So in there, you have different sections, and one of which talks about the projects and communities in the About section. And in the About section, it gives you stats about the number of the girls that are interested in coding. So like 74% of teen girls express interest in science, technology, engineering, and math. However, by high school, only 0.4% of teen girls plan to major in computer science. So it's pretty amazing that you can go from a high interest level to actual planning stage. So definitely a need to get other students involved, interested in coding, and make sure that they have opportunity to do so. And so this Made with Code website has plenty of resources out there available. So the website itself is broken down into different components. And so across the top of the website, you see the first one is projects. We're going to go into projects specific here in a little bit. What's really cool about this site, and yeah, it's made for females, but I think that you can get away with easily including some of these for all of your students. I mean, we're talking about doctors that are going into coding. We're talking about women who have started startup businesses to do that. I mean, there's just different types of women who've done amazing things that I don't think boys would care to learn from. So it's not like you could not use this with your whole class. I think that, but it is geared toward making sure that girls get interested into it. Just keep that in mind. But I mean, one video is from an animator that works for Pixar, which are very popular movies. So I can see people get involved. That one's about making video games. I think boys will be very involved in that. Another one's about making videos and stuff like that for music videos. I think boys will be very interested in that too. So even though it's geared toward girls, I think you can use some of these resources for all of your students if you're just introducing things to them. So that's in the mentor section. There's all kinds of video interviews with some very famous people where they call mentors. But there's also a thing called futurist, which I thought was pretty cool. A section called so these are inspiring women who help us kick off the My Featured Me challenge. And so different girls from around the world talk about their goals, what they're going to do when they grow up, what they're doing currently, all in the name of coding. So it's pretty cool to kind of to see those real quick, and I bet they can be very powerful to watch over that. The next section is the About section. That's where I got those stats from earlier on in the show there. But it talks about, it gives you resources like why is coding a big deal, and there's a PDF that you can download. It links to all of their partners and supporters. They've got a lot of people out there that are doing great things for them, and all of these links will then take you to their websites that you can then explore coding more. And then there's also a link that says ready for more, and that'll take you to that Mozilla website that I was telling you about earlier. And then the next section is about the community page, and this allows you to actually get the idea of coding into the community. It's actually pretty cool. I was wondering, what is the community? And so there's about coders in action, so it's different pictures of actual coders doing what they do. There's also ways to share out coding information, but there's also pretty cool links as download this kit for host a house party. And so you can invite your friends over, or have a parent, give it to the parents, and let them invite some of their kids' friends over, and it kind of goes through different aspects of what you would like to have in the party. So it's kind of cool, and it gives through introductions, it gives you resources, it gives you links, it gives you things to create. It's pretty cool, pretty detailed little resource there. So definitely something I would check out, share out with family, that house party. And so I can't wait to see what happens when my 3-year-old grows up to be in school, and if we'll end up having a house party or not, host a party for this or not. But it's pretty cool. So that's under the community section. So let's talk about the projects. If you go into the project section, you have 20 different projects right now available. And they do, I mean, obviously they said they are geared for girls. And so when you click on the very top one, which it's a holiday season, so it's design your own emoji holiday, you click on that, and the avatars that you're building are all female. So if your room full of boys and girls, your boys will be upset that Sam is not a boy, it's actually a girl. And so this part of it, this particular one, would be geared toward your girls. However, there are other projects like the Code for Equity, the Teacher Appreciation, Snapchat GeoFilter, I think they would be very interested in. Music Mixer, I think both boys and girls will equally be interested in that. Garden Robots, so if you're talking about science, you can get into that. And Beats, creating your own beat and creating your own avatar. So there are definitely some projects that can work both for male and female in your classroom, since you probably have both in your class. But there's definitely some that are geared toward the girls. And so just keep that in mind as you, again, go to this particular website. But there are a lot of ones out there. So if you click on the Design Your Own Emoji Holiday, right? It uses block coding, and it'll walk you through which blocks to pull over and how you can manipulate those in the website. And so it's really easy to get started. So I really like that part of it. You can't really mess up. There's no real right or wrong to it because you're building certain things. Now this is the emoji one, so it's no right or wrong in that. And what's really cool is you see the image as you are producing it. but next to that button is the button that says see the code. And so you can click on that and you can actually see the code that's being built out as you put these blocks in place. So that's pretty neat in and by itself. And then when you're finished, you click on done, and then you can now download, you can share it, you can print it, that kind of thing. So you have your own quick little emoji that you've made it. So it's kind of neat there. There's one called Beats that is under the projects, and this one allows you to make basically your own tune, your own quick little things. And so you go through and you code out your beat. It's got 8 different beats to it. You can add items like cymbals, cowbell, snares, stuff like that, and you can make it as fast or slow as you want, and you code that out. When you're finished, you can click done. You can download that as an actual file, and you can use that in something. So it's kind of cool. So I thought about making a beat for this soundtrack, but I didn't get around to that. So sorry, my beat skills aren't the best. Here's the best I have right now. Here's what I got so far. So yeah, I got a lot of work to do on my beat making skills, but. So again, a lot of cool resources. That's in the project section. Definitely want to check that out. Even though this is geared toward girls, you could definitely get away, especially for our code, of introducing this to everybody and letting the boys choose one of the ones that work for them. That Snapchat geo filter. Maybe not for your young kids, obviously, because they shouldn't be on Snapchat. But if you're talking about middle school, high school, they would definitely love building their own geo filter, whatever that is. I don't do Snapchat, but it's out there. So definitely check this out. 4 hour of code, possibly beyond, with your students today. It's a pretty cool little resource made by Google. Definitely one worth your time. So thanks for checking out, and thanks for listening to me as the guest and the host on this episode. Appreciate it. Alright, well that brings this special episode of the METC podcast to a close. Man, I tell you what, after editing that video, it's definitely obvious why we have guests each episode. So, thanks for hanging in there with me. Check it out, Made with Code as a resource for the hour of code made by Google and offered up to get girls interested into coding. However, like I said many times, that there are plenty of resources out there within that website that if you're just introducing students to coding in general, you can definitely use a lot of those resources for all of your students. It wouldn't be a huge focus for your males, but if you're just talking about the hour of code, if you're talking about a couple hours here or there, if you want to talk about mentors and different type of projects they can create, you could definitely use this for all of your students. So it's a pretty cool resource. I love saying it's pretty cool. It's apparently that's my phrase. I know super excited is Casey Bell and Matt Miller's, and so maybe mine is pretty cool. So I don't know if I guess growing up in the 80s. But anyway, thanks for checking out this episode. We have another one coming at you tomorrow as we close out the CS Week specials. And then we're going to highlight the different questions that I asked each of our guests this week. And so the questions like, why are we focusing on coding? How are students responding to coding, and what are some ways you can integrate to coding? Those are each going to have their own episode with the responses from all of our guests. So you're going to get episodes that are detailed to those questions. So if you get a parent say, why are you teaching my kids how to code? You can give them detailed responses either from those educators or use those answers to give to your parents. Or you can hopefully use the integrated into your curriculum episode to kind of get ideas of how to integrate coding into your curriculum beyond the hour of code. So hopefully you'll find all of these resources valuable. They will be available forever, of course, within the METC website. So go to metcedplus.org. You can find them there. They're going to be on iTunes and Google Play. So check them out, share them out, provide us some feedback, let me know how we're doing. And until our next episode, have a good one, everyone. Thank you for listening to the Midwest Education Technology Communities podcast, otherwise known as METC. To learn more about METC, check out our website at metcedplus.org or follow us on social media at METCEdPlus. To learn more about Education Plus, go to edplus.org.